Detective Sarah Chen stared at the body of Marcus Webb, one of the city's most famous photographers, sprawled across his studio floor. His camera lay shattered beside him, its memory card missing. The evening light streaming through the large windows cast long shadows a crime scene. Time of death, estimated between 2 and 4 p.m. Officer Rodriguez reported. His assistant found him at 5:30 when she returned from running errands. Sarah nodded, taking in the scene. Nothing appeared stolen except a memory card. This wasn't a robbery gone wrong. The killer had wanted something specific, the last photos Marcus had taken. The assistant, Emma Torres, sat trembling in the corner. "He had a big shoot this morning," she managed between sobs. "A private client. He wouldn't tell me who it was, which was unusual. He always shared everything with me. Did you notice anything different about his behavior recently?" Sarah asked gently. Emma wiped her eyes. "He seemed nervous the past week. Yesterday, he spent hours going through his old files, muttering about how they would never believe it." Sarah's interest piqued. "Did he say what it was?" "No," Emma shook her head. "But this morning, before the private shoot, he gave me this." She pulled out an envelope. "He said if anything happened to him, I should give it to the police." Inside the envelope was a single photo, a blurry shot of what appeared to be a handshake between two people in an alley. On the back was written, "Insurance. Studio safe. Code 5891. The safe, hidden behind a large portrait, contained a file of photos. Most were ordinary shots of city life, but 3 stood out. They showed prominent business leader James Morrison meeting with known crime boss Victor Santos in various locations. "Morrison's been campaigning against organized crime," Officer Rodriguez whispered. "These would ruin him." Sarah's phone buzzed the lab results. Marcus had defensive wounds, and traces of expensive cologne were found on his clothes. The same brand James Morrison was known to wear. But it felt too neat. Sarah returned to the studio that evening, re-examining every detail. In the darkroom, under UV light, she noticed something on Marcus's film development table, invisible ink, revealed by the light. V's nose. Meeting today, 2 p.m. Bringing proof. VS. Victor Santos. Sarah checked Morrison's public schedule. He'd been giving a televised speech at 2 p.m., right when Marcus was killed. A perfect alibi. Too perfect? She called Emma again. "The private client this morning. What time was the shoot?" 10 a.m., Emma replied. "But Mr. Morrison canceled last minute. Sent his assistant instead to reschedule." Sarah smiled. The pieces were falling into place. "And did you see this assistant?" "No," Emma said. "I was out getting coffee. When I came back, Marcus just said the shoot was canceled." Security footage from the building's lobby showed James Morrison himself entering at 9:45 a.m., not his assistant. He'd lied about the cancellation. But why come earlier, before the scheduled meeting with Santos? Sarah returned to the original crime scene photo. The shattered camera had fallen in a way that pointed to the wall. There, she noticed a tiny hole, a pinhole camera lens. Marcus had hidden a backup. Behind the wall panel, she found another memory card. The photos told the final story, Morrison arriving early, arguing with Marcus, then making a call. An hour later, Santos arriving. More arguing. Santos pulling a gun. Morrison watching as Santos pulled the trigger. The final frame showed Morrison pocketing the main camera's memory card, while Santos left with the damning photos of their previous meetings. They'd worked together all along. Morrison's anti-crime campaign was a cover for his deep involvement with Santos's organization. Marcus had discovered their connection and tried to play both sides, blackmailing them. But he'd been too clever for his own good. Sarah received the arrest warrants the next morning. Morrison was caught trying to board a private plane. Santos was found at his usual restaurant, the stolen photos still in his coat pocket. Both men's cologne matched the traces found on Marcus's clothes. As she finished filing her report, Sarah looked at the last photo Marcus had taken, his hidden insurance policy that brought down both a corrupt businessman and a crime boss. Even in death, his final frame had captured the truth. Detective Chen closed the case file, but her mind lingered on Marcus Webb. He died trying to expose the truth, and in the end, his passion for photography, his extra hidden camera, his attention to detail, his determination to document everything had helped bring his killers to justice. In his own way, he'd gotten his final shot.